pitch shifting, my first one would be the Soundtoys Microshift. It was free at some times, I don't know if still is, but it's great for background vocals, vocals doubles, and before effects, like before reverbs or delay lines. It's a great plugin. It's no fuzz, really easy to set up. Yeah, I use it a lot. Another one on the same family would be the doubler from Waves, which is still very useful for me and still a go-to despite many other great options again out there. I think a reason is that we are used to its sound. It sounds familiar. So that would be it. I don't use a variety of pitch shifting and doubling effects. These two pretty much take care of all my needs in that regard. Next category, reverbs. I do use hardware reverbs along with plugins, but for general purpose, Deverb sees a lot of action still for me. Mostly room 1 and 2. I don't like the other algorithms on it. Occasionally Hall. But yeah, room 1 and 2 and all the sizes, it's what I use it for. Now for plate it is a different story. Valhalla plate changed my feelings towards plate's reverbs, which I know I should be ashamed of saying it, but I've never really liked plate reverbs before trying the Valhalla plate. Don't ask me why. I just think these verbs sound absolutely amazing, and now I want to put it everywhere. I don't know why this plugin clicked with me right off the bat, but it did. I was astonished when I first tried it. It's by far my favorite plate reverb. So that's it for plate for me. But when I need other algorithms like rooms, halls, chambers, in that case would still be Valhalla, but the vintage verb, just for general purpose. For convolution reverb instead, which I don't use that often, but when I do, for me is the IRL. Mostly I use convolution reverb for either wacky effects or repositioning, so to speak, a badly recorded drum room or a guitar that needs some real room studio ambience to it. Or if I need a totally wet sound, like I want to position something really far in the stereo field, in the soundstage, convolution works for me for that. And the last reverb I want to mention would be the PSP Springbox. I adore this reverb. I very often use this one before or after delays to blurry up delays. Occasionally on inserts on some guitars or synths, but very often as a main vocal verb. Many of my vocals, when they do get a reverb, they get the PSP Springbox. It creates ambience, in my opinion, and depth without giving me the obvious reverb tail. I love it. It's like it's more wide than long, if that makes sense. So it really creates depth for me without the reverby sound. And it has the real mono to stereo options here. It does make a difference. It's really good sounding plugin. For delays change a lot for me from project to project, but one of my go-to is the Waves H delay. Easy to set up, sounds great, a lot of option, not too tweaky. And along with this, I do like the old stock delay from Pro Tools. The ugly ones, yeah, this one. And the reason is, again, because they have a familiar sound. We are used to their sound, we are used to the workflow. Many artists only have stock plugins in their, home studios. These have all pretty much you need for delays, modulation, independent channels, not just the basic, but also some advanced feature, and they are not too tweaky. So yeah, these are two my basic delays. I process my delays a lot before and after. So I rather have a simple delay and then process it as it was an audio track with different EQs and compressor and saturation after. So these two give me the bass sound, and then I will tweak it to my needs. But if I want something colored for delay, lately I love the T-Rex Tape Echo with this fancy panel here. It sounds great. It really sounds great. It's not that versatile, and you need to learn how it works gain staging wise, but it sounds really good to me. I love it. The other one would be the J37 from Waves, but more for special effects. This one covers the tape echo kind of thing for me. Special mention to Soundtoys Echo Boy, which is probably the ultimate delay. But for me, it's too much. And I get lost in it. Every time I open it, I get lost. I waste so much time going through all the settings and all the possibilities. It's not efficient for me, but that's my problem, not, Echo Boy's problem. It's me. I can't get a hold of myself, so I don't use that for that reason. But I saw a new version, a stripped down version of it is out. I might try that and see if that does it for me. Next category would be modulation. Now I should check something new. I wish I had the time to check something new in this category, because I mostly use the stock air modulation stuff: filter gate, stock choruses, fuzz wah, phaser, ensemble, all the air stock. That's pretty much what I use. And don't get me wrong, they sound great. But I feel like there's a lot of modulation stuff out there that I'm ignoring, but I just don't have time to, try things. So any suggestions, guys? If you have a bunch of modulation plugins that you like, and, let me know. I'll try to find the time to try them. But yeah, that's what I use for my modulation, really. It's all the air stock. I would mention the Morphoder just when I need some vocodery kind of thing, but that's pretty much it. Now, my favorite category, the harmonic. And that's easy for me. It's all of them. The more, the better. So I use them all, really. But jokes aside, I really use a wide array of saturators and distortion unit in my mixes. 10 different ones is not uncommon for me in a mix. 15 is not uncommon for me. These processors are probably my favorite kind of processing other than compression when mixing. I use both stock and third party, along with a lot of hardware for saturation and distortion, including guitar pedals and bass pedal, as you know. For saturation, like on drum bus, guitars, bass, vocals, so gentle saturation, so to speak. I can't name one favorite because I really use so many, but in casual order, that would be the stock lo-fi. Love it for vocals and snare specifically, but also for guitars and kicks sometimes. Usually I never use the saturation, just the distortion part, but I do use the bit crushing sometimes when I want to fake gated fuzz effects or really fuck shit up. But yeah, 1 to 4 on the distortion knob is used very, very often on many tracks. Occasionally I do turn the distortion knob all the way up on some snare samples. It's a great trick when you want to exaggerate overtones and create ringing snare sounds and so on. So yeah, but usually 1 to 4 is where I'm at with it. FabFilter Saturn, arguably the most versatile saturator out there. Great sounds, great feature. I usually use it in wideband mode because I don't like how it splits the band. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, I love it in wideband. I love the clean and warm tube settings, usually on vocals, drums, and bass. Usually I use these two on the group outputs of drum, bass, and vocals. Anything from 1 to 30 on the drive, and mix at 100% usually. Wideband, like I said. I also like the clean and warm tape with the same settings, but that sometimes affects the dynamic a little too much. So yeah, I might be more gentle with the clean and warm tape than I am with the clean and warm tube. But yeah, overall it's great. It really works well on so many things. Next one I will need to drop at some point, but yeah, not for now, is the old URS saturation plugin. An old one, but still great. Maybe because I'm familiar with it, maybe because it's a familiar sound, maybe because I know the gain structure well. I use it all the time. I often use it on snare group if I route multiple snares and or samples to one aux, which I usually do. Often this one is the second slot after the SSL channel. I often use it also to dirty up effects, like delays and reverbs, or as an insert on vocals, or anything that needs grit. It has a bunch of algorithms. They all sound great, really. As a mix knob and intensity knob, it's easy to set up, straightforward. My favorite algorithms in order: Tape 30, JFET Mic Pre, 2 preamp tape deck, and Motor City. These are my favorite algorithms on this one. Last one for saturation would be the iZotope Exciter. Now, this is what I like the best for multiband saturation. My favorite on bass, hands down, and occasionally on mastering too, I will say that. Anywhere when I want to control saturation on different frequency ranges, all its algorithms can sound great depending on the material. A very, very versatile plugin, very, very good sounding saturator. Awesome on complex material when you have a lot going on the whole frequency spectrum and you need more control over the saturation. Honorable mention in the saturation category, it would go to Soundtoys Decapitator, which is still great. Now for full-blown distortion instead, I like still the Sansamp ES11. I used to have the hardware, so I know the unit very well, and again, maybe it's familiarity. It sounds great. It needs a lot of work, that's for sure, but also sometimes a preset is just a ticket. But there's so many ways you can change a sound with multiband distortion, basically, that you get lost sometimes in tweaking. My advice with this is just scroll through presets or tweak a bit, and when you find a sound that you like, stop. Because you will otherwise spend the next 40 minutes. Oh, what about if I do this? Or what about if I do that? So it's endless. Vocals to bass, to guitars, to snare, to synths, like really loops, everything. It's great. Another one worth mentioning is the Soundtoys Deadlock, which is also my 4th parallel channel as a distortion / Uber compression channel. I use that mostly in parallel, actually always in parallel. Usually I have more than one instance with different settings and I send things to see how the material reacts to it. It's great to add color in a mix, and I also use this one to dirty up delays a lot, especially on drums. K-Clip, is my favorite clipper. It ends up in the harmonic category too. We have not one but 2 reviews on the channel on this one, so no need to add anything for it. But one of my overall favorite for anything distorted, filtered, unconventional, low-fine shit, that would be the Mac DSP Fuzzbox, which is a lot more than just a saturator. But when you want something wacky and distorted in a good way, or lo-fied, this is it. This is the king of radio vocals, strange sounding basses or drums or guitars, parallel stuff, and something that not many people have seen using this for. It's a great tool when you want to make a sound feel like it's coming from a tiny space, or far away, or on one side, or from above. It really can change the positioning of the material if you know how to use it. And I might do a video on that. I mean, aside from the good algorithm of distortion and simulation it has, and the filters too, it really is what I use it for a lot, positioning. But yeah, that needs to have its own video. But the Fuzzbox really is one of those plugins that will spark your creativity. As far as fake console or console emulating thing, I'm not into that. I don't like any of them. For me, it's just bullshit, so I say it as it is. I don't use it, I don't like them. So none of that for me. But for tape emulation, I do have a favorite, and it's Real Bus by Tone Booster. It's an amazing plugin to take harshness out of material, especially guitars, overly bright guitars and vocals and overads. It's a great sounding plugin overall. It has a lot of different algorithms and tape machine models, and it sounds great. It really sounds great. It's well thought out. I love it. Another good tape emulator that I like would be the Kramer Tape from Waves, but I rely on my Neves 522s for the tape sound, really, which is what I keep on my 2-bus. Soundfield stereo image. The Ozone Imager is definitely my favorite. I don't know if they change anything in the new one, but that's my favorite, specifically for multiband stuff and when I want more control over my stereo field. Again, it seems iZotope is really good at their band splitting filters, and I'm noticing a trend here. And this one is great. It's great also for stereoizing things, not just open up the stereo field of stereo tracks, but also for manipulating mono sources. And yeah, it sounds great. I feel like it retains mono compatibility more than others when you mess with the stereo image with this one. So that would be my favorite. The other one is the always present Waves S1. Again, it's a familiar sound. It's a familiar phase shift in this case. But I use the S1 not much for widening or narrowing the stereo image. This is what I do. I select both the sliders and I use it for panning. I use it for panning stereo tracks in the stereo field. That's really my main use for this. And I like to automate this effect so stuff moves in the stereo field. So yeah, that's really what I use it for. My main analyzer is the Blue Cat frequency, which is free and it's great. I've been using it for a long time. I'm familiar with it. And from here, I can name some plugins that you don't use for mixing really, or not in many instances. But yeah, I like Drumagog for drum replacing, Toontrack stuff for drum samples and programming, and some special effects like Max Bass, for example, to add humph to vocal synth, bass guitars, occasionally acoustics. Always used lightly though, but yeah, I'm still in use. And last, the Blue Cat Patchwork. And I want to name this because, well, first of all, is the best way for me to use VST in Pro Tools. And it has some onboard features like the parallel chain, phase inversion. And I use this for those few VST plugins that I use in Pro Tools. All of them are free stuff, basically. One of which would be the limiter number 6. I often use it in my mastering session. Is usually one of my 2 limiters. So it's a great plugin, it's free, it's a VST, and you need the Patchwork to use it in Pro Tools. But yeah, another honorable mention goes to the Bax EQ from Bootsy, and another free plugin, another great sounding EQ. I kind of forgot about this for a while, but yeah, it's a great sounding plugin. It's very, very simple to set, easy to use, it sounds great. And it's free. And that's a wrap. This is it for this long video. I hope it was informative. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorite, most used plugins are in the comment section down below. And please don't forget to click the like button. Join us on Facebook and Twitter to stay in touch with us and get all the news about the channel, upcoming videos and series, and access to exclusive content. Please keep supporting Mixbus TV by sharing the videos and spreading the word on blogs, forums, social media. Subscribe if you haven't already. And see you next time.